My name is Sunu. I went to a decent university, was lucky enough to find a great job, and married a particularly good husband. Many people envy me. In the second year of my relationship with Gu Chengze, I had a car accident when I went back to my hometown with him to visit my parents. I saved him and my right hand was almost disabled. The doctor told me that my right hand can still do some simple things with practice. The sequelae is that if I keep a movement for a long time or do fine movements, my hand will shake uncontrollably. Everyone thinks that I love Gu Chengze terribly, and Gu Chengze thinks so too. At that time he knelt beside the bed, cried and held my hand and said, "I will be your right hand in the future, Nuo. I will take care of you for the rest of your life." What was I thinking at that time? I thought he seemed to really love me. At that time everyone looked at me with pity. They thought that I lost my job and my hand became like this, and my second half of life was over. Who would have thought that, although I could no longer draw, I accidentally got into a small media company as an editor. Later, short videos became popular, and the small media company I worked for seized this opportunity and prospered. Sunuo was really lucky, that's what they said, but they didn't see that I practiced hard on the keyboard day and night in order to be able to type again. The company created a travel guide account which was actually about eating, drinking and having fun, and the first stop was Sanya. The company asked me to take new people to shoot, and the first short video was shot very successfully, so I went home 2 days early. It was the weekend. I took out the key and opened the door, wanting to give Gu Chengze a surprise, but found that no one was at home. When I pushed my luggage to the bedroom, I heard an ambiguous voice. Logically, I should push the door open and cry loudly. I did push the door open, but I didn't cry or make a scene. Looking at the people who were entangled in love on the bed, I knew that this marriage could not continue. I thought about it and felt that it would be inappropriate not to shoot something, so I took out my phone and turned on the video recording. When Gu Chengze collapsed on Wei Lin, I finished shooting, put my phone in my pocket, and knocked on the door politely. Hearing the sound, Gu Chengze suddenly turned over and got out of bed, and Wei Lin also sat up. The moment they saw me, their faces turned pale. They looked at me for a while without saying anything. I said to put on my clothes and come out for a while. After that, I helped them close the door with special quality. When I was sitting on the sofa, I thought about what I should say later. Should I cry and scold them for betraying me? No, they are not worth it. Before I could perform, Gu Chengze quarreled with Wei Lin in the bedroom. I heard the sound of things breaking and Gu Chengze's roar. I walked into the bedroom again and saw the broken vases on the floor. I felt a little distressed. This was done by me when I went to the experience center when I went out to play. The experience center mailed it to me. Wei Lin screamed hysterically and rushed up to scratch Gu Chengze. Gu Chengze suddenly pushed Wei Lin down on the bed. The mattress is of good quality. Wei Lin bounced up a bit. Because the incident happened suddenly, Wei Lin wore a bathrobe, revealing her white thighs. There were still glaring red marks on the thighs. He lay on the bed, crying and scolding Gu Chengze. "If you don't want to, can I still tie you up and go to bed with me? Gu Chengze, you said you liked me when we were in bed, but now you say I seduced you. What's wrong with me liking you? Is it illegal to like you?" Gu Chengze looked at me with red eyes, full of regret and affection. "2 of the 3 of us cried, so I don't have to cry. In fact, I found out very early that I was different from ordinary people. I was more emotional than them, even when my mother was in tears in front of me. My emotions were not very strong, but I knew very clearly that she loved me very much and I should not make her feel bad. I was a good student in the eyes of teachers since I was a child. I studied hard, did not fall in love early, and followed the routine every day. I would think about my youth. The only fun may be listening to school gossip. After graduating from college, I didn't fall in love for a long time, and there was no sign of wanting to fall in love. I went on blind dates with many people but ended in failure. My family suspected that I had someone in my heart, and finally even suspected that I was gay. Only I knew that my heart was empty and no one could get in. My mother was very satisfied with Gu Chengze, and after I went on a blind date with Gu Chengze, when he expressed his interest in me, I also told him frankly that I had never been in love and my feelings were very weak. But after I saved him in the car accident, he seemed to forget about it, and like everyone else, he thought I loved him terribly. I think my feelings for Gu Chengze are stronger than those of ordinary people. After all, he is my husband. After we got married, we got along very well. I learned to put him in the position of my husband and do what a wife would do. Even because I didn't love him, I did more than he did to me. I tried to make everyone feel that we were perfect and happy. When he cheated on me, I didn't cry or make a fuss, but handled it all calmly. I had never thought of betraying him and divorcing him before. Gu Chengze kicked the disheveled Wei Lin out of the house. I didn't agree with this approach. I thought it would be better for the 3 of us to talk it out together. Gu Chengze walked to the sofa with difficulty. My right hand trembled slightly as I picked up the water cup, but I still put the water into my mouth accurately. He paused, looked at my hand with a complicated expression, and felt regretful. I knew what he was thinking. To be honest, do you regret it? I don't regret it because I saved a person, but it's a pity that this person is a scumbag. I saved him only because he was a living person who was sitting next to me at the time. I would have saved anyone else too. Gu Chengze sat down on the sofa cautiously, looking at me with hope on his face. I looked at the kiss mark on his neck and felt a little sick from the bottom of my heart. I suppressed the nausea and said to Gu Chengze seriously, "Let's get a divorce." Well, I am very rational and even unwilling to pretend that I love him. Maybe my expression is too indifferent and it hurt him. Gu Chengze slipped from the sofa and knelt on the ground, tears falling down. He seemed to be very regretful. He looked exactly like my 7-year-old nephew who broke my sister's cosmetics and was told that he would not have any pocket money for half a year. He is already 7 years old. Does he know that he will be scolded when he plays with cosmetics? He knows it, so regret is useless. Nuo, we will not divorce. I love you. I only love you. I was just confused for a moment. It was he who seduced me. Gu Cheng looked at me with expectation on his face, touched by my indifference, and avoided my eyes in embarrassment. He took my hand like a devout believer, and rested his forehead on my hand. Hot tears fell on my hand. It's so dirty. I have never hated Gu Chengze so much before. Although I didn't have a strong love for Gu Chengze before, I never resisted his contact. Now when he touches me, I feel like there are 10,000 ants crawling on my nerves, and I feel nauseous and want to vomit. Gu Chengze, I don't love you. What I said is that I don't love you, not that I don't love you anymore. In this situation, there is no better way out than divorce. I can't let myself down. No, I beg you not to say such things. I was wrong, I was really wrong. Can you please hit me? I will never do this again. Gu Chengze looked at me angrily. I frowned slightly. He tried hard to find evidence in my eyes that I loved him, but unfortunately there was none. Gu Chengze grabbed my hand and asked me to slap him. I tried my best to break free. Can you hit me? Can you hit me? How could you not love me? If you didn't love me, why did you risk your life to save me? Nuo, you used to love me so much that you didn't even want your life. I feel that the crazy Gu Chengze in front of me makes me feel strange, but that didn't buy your loyalty, did it? Gu Chengze finally let me go. I suppressed the nausea in my heart and leaned against the back of the sofa with some annoyance. The words I said seemed to drain the strength of Gu Chengze, who was kneeling on the ground. He knelt on the ground dejectedly. If you don't agree, I will file for divorce. I just recorded a video. I packed my luggage and wanted to leave this house. There are too many things that belong to me and too many things that belong to us. In the end, I only packed a few clothes. Gu Chengze came and pulled my luggage to stop me from leaving. Nuo, I was really wrong. Please don't leave, okay? But this place is dirty and I don't want to stay. I threw away the suitcase and left this former home with my handbag. That's it. Since I don't want it anymore, then I don't want anything anymore. Does Gu Chengze really love me? If so, why did he cheat on me? Since he cheated on me, why did he act so nice, as if he loved me so much? I couldn't understand it. Finally, I came up with an answer. He might just not be able to accept it. He couldn't accept that his wife, who loved him so much in his eyes, suddenly didn't love him anymore. When I got home, my mother saw that something was wrong with me and asked me why I went back alone. I thought I should feel more miserable. I tried but couldn't cry. I could only tell her tiredly that Gu Chengze had cheated on me. He had sex with Wei Lin at home, and I caught them red-handed. I wanted to divorce him, so I came back. My mother was stunned for a moment, then looked at me cautiously and stiffly changed the subject. Well, have you eaten? I'll go back to my room to rest after I've eaten. I just came back from a business trip and I'm very tired. I obviously didn't cry, but my mother said I was very sad. English. For the first time in my life, he treated me so carefully like a fragile cup. She also said that her daughter was so sad that she couldn't cry. I had reservations about this. During the time when I consulted about divorce, Gu Chengze kept calling me and sending me text messages saying that he loved me, he only loved me, he was wrong, and so on. In the end, he even said in a crazy way that we should start over after it's over. I almost laughed out loud, so I blocked him. He came to my house every day to wait for me downstairs. When I was getting tired of it, I received a message from Wei Lin. He asked me to meet him at the rice noodle restaurant we used to go to. I ordered a plate of mixed sauce rice noodles, but Wei Lin didn't order anything. He didn't seem to like the way I looked now. He might think that I was going to divorce Gu Chengze and should be very depressed. After all, in his perception, I loved Gu Chengze so much. In fact, if he pays a little more attention, he will find that I don't love Gu Chengze. It's just that they all think that I love Gu Chengze. They don't want to pay more attention to me. Everyone is like this. Nah, can you let Gu Chengze go to me? Okay? I really love him. We are best friends. We shouldn't have come to this point for a man. Wei Lin said as she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. I stuffed a mouthful of rice noodles in my mouth, looked up at him. So you also knew that we were best friends, I said it slowly, with a little surprise and sudden realization, panicking and avoiding my eyes. As if this could change the fact that he betrayed his best friend. I always thought that you were one of the reasons why I like this world. Wei Lin, do you still remember when you were in your 3rd year of high school, your mother and your stepfather divorced? Your stepfather came to the school to block you. I saved you. You hugged me and cried like a baby that day. After the calm statement, Wei Lin's eyes were red, and she raised her hand to hold my hand, but I dodged it. This action of mine seemed to break his defense. Su Nua said, I just don't want to accept it. Why is your luck in your life so good? You can get into a good university, you have a happy family, parents who love you, and you can find a good man even if you go on a blind date. But what about me? Everything is broken and the ground is a mess. Every time you comfort me, I feel like you are showing off to me. Why are you always the one who comforts others and I am always the one who is comforted? So I seduced Gu Chengze and I finally won once. After Wei Lin finished speaking, she showed a relieved smile. Not everyone is worthy of being friends. After listening to these words, I was relieved. Maybe he felt that this was his victory. He won in the past but lost everything. Wei Lin was worried pregnant. He showed me the pregnancy test report. I glanced at it but didn't pick it up for fear of dirtying my hands. I asked when you got together. Wei Lin raised her hand to tidy up her hair. Half a year ago. Haha, you should still be immersed in your happy marriage at that time. Earlier than I thought. I became busy with work, but it was reasonable. You don't have to show off in front of me. You and I have been friends for so many years. Don't you know I don't want garbage? I put down my chopsticks and looked at Wei Lin calmly. Wei Lin, I was sure at this moment you never understood me, and you are not worthy of my heart and soul. For you, I recorded it. I knew that he asked me out, most likely because of Gu Chengze. When I returned to the downstairs of the community, Gu Chengze, who looked embarrassed, blocked my way. He had a scruffy beard, his clothes were twisted, and his eyes were full of caution. Facing my cold look, my eyes turned red instantly. Nuo, I went to see Wei Lin today. Gu Chengze is pregnant. Let's meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock tomorrow. If you don't come, I will really sue you. Gu Chengze looked at me with wide eyes. After a long time, he didn't soften. Suddenly, he was like a deflated balloon. His voice was hoarse and tears fell to the ground. He looked so pitiful, as if I had abandoned him. My heart was calm. A gust of wind blew, ruffling my hair. The leaves rustled. The wind could not be caught. Nuo, it's impossible for us to be together again, right? When I said this word firmly, he seemed to have aged many years in an instant. He held back and cried like a child. He wanted to pull me but was afraid of my disgust. Finally, he squatted on the ground and cried with his head in his hands. I felt a little disappointed. I didn't comfort him. I turned around and left firmly. Outsiders thought I loved Gu Chengze very much, but I wasn't. Outsiders thought I have a very happy family and parents who love me, but in fact I am not. The luck they thought was like a dense net that bound me and made me breathless. In fact, I have not been like this since I was a child. I know very well that I am sick, but I don't want to be treated. In my memory, my mother started to love me after she found out that something was wrong with me. At that time, I was already in high school. I clearly remember that when I was in the 2nd grade of junior high school, a distant relative came to our house and asked me how old I was and what grade I was in. My father said I was 1 year older and my mother said I was 1 year younger. The two argued and finally got the result that she was 1 year younger than me. They said I was in the 1st grade of junior high school. I could only smile awkwardly at the time. My birthday was close to the Chinese New Year, and I had never had a birthday cake. My mother always said that there were so many dishes, why did I need a cake? You are making a big deal about it. I remember I have heard an old saying that the emperor loves his eldest son and the people love the demon. It is not like that in my family. I have an older sister. She has a cake every birthday and my mother will take her to buy new clothes. As I live next to the Chinese New Year, everything is just fine. They seldom miss my sister's parent-teacher meetings, but I always miss mine. I cannot even selfishly resent my sister. Before I went to high school, my parents went out to work, so my sister and I lived with relatives. My sister is 4 years older than me. When I was in junior high school, she had already gone to high school, which was in town and in the county. She only came back to see me once every 2 weeks, and I always stood at the gate waiting for her. He would save his living expenses to buy me delicious food. He would comfort me, and listen to my unrealistic fantasies. He was gentle, the only light in the darkness, but he could not protect me all the time. I was in junior high school. I lived in my uncle's house. My uncle was a teacher, so my aunt was arrogant. They always looked at me with a hint of disgust. In the summer of my 1st year in junior high school, I was taking a nap in the room vacated by the utility room. Suddenly, I felt a heavy person pressing on me. I was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. His sticky breath sprayed on my neck. I desperately protected my chest. My uncle came to pull my hand, and his low moan was in my ears. He laughed in a low voice and asked me what I was doing. I eagerly said that I didn't do anything, I was just playing. I resisted while talking. He couldn't pull my hand away. And then I heard the sound of the door opening, so he let me go. From then on, I had to lock the door when I slept. I tried to tell my mother about it, and she glared at me coldly and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? That's your uncle playing with you. Your uncle is a teacher, what can he do?" My head buzzed. I heard a voice that was cold, and because my uncle was a teacher, no one wanted to believe me. I became a clown in everyone's eyes. I don't know if it was out of revenge, but the power went out in my small utility room, and my uncle said there was a malfunction. I was very afraid of the dark at that time because in that room, there was a shrine that my aunt no longer worshipped. I was afraid of those things and it always looked spooky at night. Later, my sister said it was not good to always live in my uncle's house. My uncle's brother had grown up, and his house didn't have enough rooms, so I moved to my uncle's house. I tried my best to shut myself up, stop complaining, stop expecting my parents' attention, and work hard to be what they wanted, to be sensible. Later, I became what I am now, and I have lost the ability to love forever. Later, I went to high school, and my parents who had returned from work settled in the county town. My abnormality was still it was my homeroom teacher who told my parents. He was tactful in his words. He said that I was under a lot of pressure in my senior year of high school, and asked my mother to take me to the hospital to adjust my mentality. But my mother directly said that I was mentally ill. Later, when he found out that I really had a problem, he tried every way to communicate with me and wanted me to respond to him. At the beginning, his method was to find fault with me in every possible way. He asked me to mop the floor, and he would scold me if I mopped the floor a few minutes late. He would scold me again if the floor was wet. He would go through my school bag and cell phone. Later, when he himself found out that this method was problematic, he began to treat me gently again. I could not respond to him, so I could only pretend to respond to him. I once thought that he did not love me, but he had a car accident to save me. On the day the college entrance examination ended, I encountered a drunk driving accident, and he pushed me away. He almost died. They all said that I owed my mother. When my mother was pregnant with me, everyone in the family said it was a boy. My grandmother was extremely patriarchal. She was so happy at the time and said that she had already made clothes for me, and my mother didn't have to make them. But I was a girl, so my grandmother took the clothes back on the spot. My mother endured the discomfort and got up to make clothes for me. I looked at her as she came down from the operating table. I think she loved me but loved me at the wrong time. How ridiculous. He was willing to die for me, but was unwilling to believe the teenage me struggling in the darkness. In order to put his mind at ease, I gradually became a normal person in their eyes. My sister married and moved to another province. When I was a sophomore, my sister and brother-in-law said they were going to pick cherries at my aunt's house. I said I wanted to go too, but I had never eaten them before. My mother was surprised and said, "You haven't eaten them before? I sent them to you every year when you were in high school. At that time, they were for your uncle's sister. He didn't give it to her. Your uncle's sister was in the same grade as her. I just found out that he often went to give that sister things such as snacks, takeout, and cherries, but he never called me. And those cherries never came into my hands. I remembered that I once left my wallet at home and asked him to bring it to me. He scolded me for half an hour, saying that I had no plans and was forgetful. In my memory, my father was silent except when he beat me. Gu Chengze and I agreed to divorce at the Civil Affairs Bureau 2 days later. On the day before the divorce, when I got home from get off work, I found that my aunt and uncle were also there, and they brought their good-for-nothing daughter. My uncle is no longer a teacher. He was laid off during the teacher reform. He still had a hypocritical smile on his face. My aunt and mother were chatting happily. I changed my shoes and strode towards my room. "No, will you call for help? Didn't you see your aunt and uncle?" My mother's dissatisfied voice came from behind. At dinner time, my aunt began her performance. "Hey Xiaono, I tell you, just turn a blind eye to life. There is no man in the world who doesn't cheat. While Gu Chengze still feels guilty about you, you can still control him if you reconcile with him. If he gets divorced, you will have nothing. A second marriage is second-hand goods and it will be hard to find one. You don't have a good personality either. You won't find someone as good as Chengze in the future. Life is a mess. If you can't tolerate any grain of sand in your eyes, what will you do in the future? If you listen to your aunt, can your aunt harm you? Gu Chengze guards you every day, and we can all see that he has really changed. Your hand is useless and your personality is just like that. How can your mother feel at ease if you get divorced?" I looked up at my parents. My father didn't say anything and poured himself a glass. Wine. Mom was obviously persuaded. "Nuo, your aunt is right." I slammed the chopsticks on the table, turned to look at my aunt. "It's none of your business whether I get divorced or not. I'm a second-hand product. Isn't Gu Chengze a second-hand product? Hey, how are you talking? How can men and women be the same?" My aunt was stunned. Then she straightened her back and pointed at me, angrily said, "Don't be ungrateful. With your character, only Gu Chengze is blind to like you. No wonder Gu Chengze cheated. Is Gu Chengze's cheating all his fault? You don't have any responsibility at all. Can a slap make a sound?" "Huh," I sneered. "You still have a husband who used to be a teacher. Put the victim's guilt theory. A slap can't make a sound. I'll slap you, see if it makes a sound." Mom saw that she was pulling me with a cold face. Nuo, that's your aunt. How are you talking to your elders? It turned out to be my aunt. I thought she was Gu Chengze's aunt. I talked to him the way he talked to me. What's wrong with being an elder? Everyone is qualified to be an elder. I can tolerate it, but I can't tolerate his remarks. Enjoying sex is also a woman's right. I didn't cheat, and I didn't interfere with other people's feelings. Gu Chengze and I slept together legally. How can I be inferior? How can I be wrong just because I am a woman, right? There is nothing wrong with Gu Chengze cheating. I just can't tolerate any grain of sand in my eyes. I didn't beg him to marry me. Whether I get married in the future is my business. I have plenty of money. Why should I worry about my life? I deserve Gu Chengze for cheating. Then doesn't your daughter deserve it too for being abused and cheated by her husband? I glared at my aunt with a sullen face. I didn't mean to poke his daughter's pain. He obviously felt his daughter's misfortune, so why could he still be so righteous? She said those words without hesitation. He didn't want me to have an easy life, and I didn't want him to have an easy life either. His own family was a mess, but he still came to point fingers at me. My aunt, who had nothing better to do, left with a swear word as she took her uncle and his daughter away. Well, why did you do this? We are all relatives. How are we going to get along with each other in the future if you do this? Mom frowned and looked at me with disappointment. So your daughter is not as important as your face, right? I looked at my mother sideways and said. My mother opened her mouth and couldn't speak for a long time. I don't know if my aunt was instructed by Gu Chengze. It didn't make me loosen up the idea of divorcing Gu Chengze, but made me more determined. But my mother was shaken. The next morning she looked at me and said, do you want to think about it again? In fact, your aunt is right. Now Xiaogu feels guilty. You will have an easier life in the future. Ha, I laughed out of anger and raised my right hand. His hand trembled slightly in his field of vision. Did you see this hand? In order to save Gu Chengze, doesn't this make him feel more guilty than his cheating? Have you forgotten that he knelt in the hospital and said he would be my hand? He cheated the same. I stayed outside the Civil Affairs Bureau for half an hour before Gu Chengze appeared. I ignored his dejection. Since you are here, let's go. Nuo, is it really necessary? Gu Chengze asked me. I did not stop and walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau. A month of cooling off period. Let us get the divorce certificate in a month. I don't think I will get married again. If after the Civil Affairs Bureau, Gu Chengze's mother called me for the first time. Her words were all thank you for saving Gu Chengze and sorry for me. Before the 1-month deadline was over, I heard that Gu Chengze and Wei Lin were together, because Wei Lin's pregnancy was reported to Gu Chengze's parents. They had wanted a grandson for a long time, and under the pressure of my parents, Gu Chengze had to agree, but I didn't care because of the company's new plan. I devoted myself to work. The company found a new investor, and the boss asked us to be very alert and not make any mistakes. I took most of Gu Chengze's and my property, and Gu Chengze only asked for the house. A month later, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate. Wei Lin and Gu Chengze stood together, with their hands on their bellies that were not yet visible, with proud faces. After getting the divorce certificate, I left. Gu Chengze hurriedly called me, his eyes cautious, and said, No, we can still be friends in the future. Please add me back. Gu Chengze's qualified ex should be the same as dead. I left without looking back, and except for some sighs and disappointment, I didn't feel bad. I didn't spread the matter of Wei Lin and Gu Chengze, but Wei Lin and I have a good relationship, and most of his colleagues at work recognize me. I know Gu Chengze and I also know Gu Chengze. After he got together with Gu Chengze, rumors that he was a mistress spread like wildfire. Wei Lin had no choice but to quit her job, but it was not easy for a pregnant woman to find a job, so in the end she could only stay at home and let Gu Chengze's mother take care of her. Gu Chengze's mother was a typical rural woman, and her mind was not very clear. It's not that she was so bad, but she was not as sophisticated as the people in the city, and she always did things that surprised people. Wei Lin couldn't stand the quarrel with Gu Chengze's mother, and then she quarreled with Gu Chengze. Gu Chengze couldn't stand this kind of life and went home less and less. I devoted myself to my work. After the new account had more fans, I received more business because the copywriting and script were attractive, and the response was quite good. The boss gave me a raise. The company came with a new investor named Su Lin. Because of his handsome appearance, he attracted a lot of attention. In addition, the girl from the new media company was originally there are so many that I can hear gossip about him wherever I go. The embarrassing thing is that the first sentence he said to me was to ask me to make him a cup of coffee. The boss came over to rescue him and said, I'm sorry, Mr. Su. Su Nua's situation is special. It's not convenient to let Xiaofeng make it for you. Su Lin looked at the boss curiously and asked, why is it inconvenient to make Su Nu? He injured his hand while saving someone a few years ago and has sequelae. The boss looked at me and explained. Su Lin looked at me in surprise and nodded sorry. Maybe he felt that I was too pitiful. Su Lin took special care of me. I didn't like this feeling, and I didn't like putting myself in the position of a weak person. I thought he just had pity on the disabled and tried to keep a distance from him. 2 months later at a company party I met Gu Chengze. Gu Chengze was drunk and held my hand and refused to let go. He kept calling my name and asked, "He let you let him go?" Su Lin didn't know knowing when he came out. He frowned and strode up to Gu Chengze, pulling Gu Chengze's hand away. Gu Chengze looked at me with red eyes and glared at Su Lin. I was about to speak when Gu Chengze rushed up and hit Su Lin. The two wrestled with each other, and Su Lin had the upper hand. When Wei Lin came to the hospital to pick up Gu Chengze with her pregnant belly, she glared at me viciously. Gu Chengze glanced at me, as if he was afraid that Wei Lin would embarrass me, so he pulled Wei Lin away and took Su Lin out of the hospital. We didn't speak all the way. After leaving the hospital I lit a cigarette, the bright red burning point blazing in the dark night. Exhaled a puff of smoke, smiled and turned back to ask Su Lin if you like me, right? Su Lin did not hesitate, did not twist and turn in the dim light. I seemed to see her ears red. Don't like me anymore. I will never like anyone else in my life. The others, I mean people other than me. I have become present in this way. I am destined to be a selfish person. I don't want to play house games with others anymore. And I don't want an irresponsible person like me to give birth to a child as unfortunate as me. But Su Lin seemed to think that I was talking about people other than Gu Chengze. You can't close yourself off and reject other people's pursuit and kindness to you, just because of the failure of a relationship. Su Lin frowned and looked very anxious. He had already inquired about my emotional experience. I heard the evening breeze rustling the leaves of the street trees. I didn't continue to explain to him, but raised my eyes and looked at his handsome face seriously. When Gu Chengze liked me the most, I said I wanted to eat sugar-roasted chestnuts. He could buy it for me across the city. He would choose between his parents to protect me and respect me. He would stay up in the middle of the night to queue up to buy me a cake and give me the best things. I also Su Lin. Just as soon as he opened his mouth, I interrupted him and said, "I know you can do it, but do you think Gu Chengze at that time likes me less than you do?" Su Lin was speechless. There are too many possibilities and accidents in life. Su Lin, we are not suitable. You will meet someone who is more suitable for you. After that night, Su Lin gradually faded out of my life. Because of the salary increase and bonus at the end of the year, my classmates and I opened a cake shop in partnership. At the class reunion I ate the cake she made and it tasted very good. When I found her she agreed at once. I paid 70% and he paid 30%. There are 3 schools near the location of the cake shop. Since its opening, the business has been very prosperous. Because of the good taste, there are many repeat customers. I plan to open a branch in 2 years. Sure enough, there is more money. Wei Lin's child could not be kept, but I didn't expect that this could be related to our family. My heartless, my crazy aunt actually sent her daughter, who looked a bit like me, to Gu Chengze as his lover after I divorced Gu Chengze. My aunt's daughter is called Chen Lanxiang. She had been staying at home since the divorce because of domestic violence from her ex-husband. My aunt thought highly of Gu Chengze and thought that Gu Chengze had a lot of money, so she bewitched Chen Lanxiang to be Gu Chengze's lover. At first Gu Chengze disagreed, but later he did not resist her approach anymore. When Wei Lin was 8 months old, she found out about Wei Chengze and Chen Lanxiang. Seeing that Chen Lanxiang looked 50% like me in terms of the way she dressed, she went to beat Chen Lanxiang like crazy. Chen Lanxiang pushed Wei Lin in a panic, and Wei Lin fell off the stairs. The child was no longer breathing when she was delivered by cesarean section. Wei Lin's family and Gu Chengze's family were determined to sue Chen Lanxiang, and the news soon spread everywhere. Even people in my office were talking about it. They couldn't tell who was with whom, but knowing that this happened and hearing them talking about it, I felt my 3 views were shaken. It was not until my aunt's family came to my house because they couldn't borrow money that I knew the mistress was Chen Lanxiang. She was willing to reconcile in order to get 500,000 yuan. My aunt came to my house to borrow money and said righteously that all this was because of me. If I didn't divorce Gu Chengze would not get together with Chen Lanxiang, so she wanted me to give her money. My mother didn't want to and quarreled with my aunt. Called 110 directly. After going to the police station and finding out the cause and effect, I saw something indescribable in the eyes of the police. In the end, the money was borrowed by Chen Lanxiang's younger brother Chen Yuan. Chen Yuan looked at me with guilt. A man under 30 years old, his spine seemed to be bent. Wei Lin found it difficult to get pregnant again because of the accident. She had planned to hold the wedding after the child was born. Gu Chengze got married after Wei Lin was discharged from the hospital. They got married later. Because the incident was too big, Gu Chengze lost his job, but he soon found another job. After all, in this era where interests are paramount, rumors will soon fade away. When people are unlucky, even drinking cold water may cause problems. In order to pay back the money, my uncle went to the construction site to move bricks and fell from the upstairs. Most of the debts were settled, but he was half dead. I almost laughed out loud in order to barbecue that night. My aunt came to the house again, as if she had aged 10 years in an instant. She still wanted to borrow money from me. Now I am the richest person in the family. Seeing him being humble, I was a little uncomfortable. I told him that I had invested all the money. Anyway, I didn't have a penny. Maybe some people think I am very vicious. If the person lying on the hospital bed was my aunt, I could still give her some money. But it was that person my uncle and I didn't have a penny. My aunt cursed and went out. My mother frowned and told me to give her some money as a token of my appreciation. Otherwise, with my aunt's gossiping nature, I don't know what kind of reputation she would spread about me. I replied, I don't have any money. I don't care what kind of reputation she spreads. As long as someone needs my help, they have to be humble to me. Later, when she saw that there really didn't seem to be so many people saying bad things about me, she stopped talking. My sister knew what happened after my divorce and said she wanted to come back to see me, but I stopped her. There was a mess here. What was there to come back for? She should run away as far away as possible. I gave my sister some money and she married in another province. It's good to have some money to rely on. No matter how much my family persuaded me, I was not in a relationship or getting married. I didn't need to get married. I wouldn't fall in love with anyone. With money I could have any man I wanted. I could change one every month. I could also enjoy the bright lights and wine. I just needed to please myself. The whole article is over.